Hello all, I'm Sai and you're watching The Book Dragon. In today's video, I'm bringing to you my spoiler-free review of Insomnia by Stephen King. This is my third Stephen King book and I have my review of Cujo already out in the channel. I'll try to link it down in the description so that you can check it out if you're interested. Now this book was published far back in 1994 and I was not even born then. I should say that it was a really nice reading experience and it took me a lot of time to finish this book because it is very huge in its length. It is almost 900 pages long and I finished it over a period of 2.5 months. So without any further ado, let's get into the review right away. In Insomnia, we are following our main character Ralph Roberts, who's 70 years old, and his wife Caroline has just passed away a few months back. And after she's passed away, he has no one else to live with since they did not have kids, and he's just living all alone in his own apartment right now. A few months after Caroline has died, what happens is that Ralph develops insomnia and he's not able to stay asleep in the night. He just wakes up in the middle of the night and is not able to fall back to sleep at all. His issue is not that he's not able to fall asleep, but it is that he's not able to keep himself asleep. Because of this, what happens is he starts seeing things that other people cannot see, like auras and some people who are not visible to no other person's eyes. It happens in this imaginary town of Derry, Maine that is created by Stephen King, and most of his novels happen there only. So when Ralph starts seeing these stuff, he just tells to people that he is facing insomnia and trying to get some help from them. Many people tell him remedies and he tries some home remedies also, which are not effective at all no matter what he tries and does. He even tries going to bed late at night, but even then what happens is after just a few hours he gets back from sleep. He just wakes up from sleep and is not able to get back to sleep at all. During the same time that Ralph develops insomnia, we also follow this other storyline in which we see this character named Susan Day, who's an activist and she supports abortion. When she comes to Derry, Maine in order to make a speech on a particular day, there are two groups of people of which one supports her and one is against her because the people inside that group are against killing fetuses in their wombs itself. But Susan Day supports abortion because she wants to help women who are not willing to give birth to the babies whom they don't want to grow. So we don't just follow Ralph's storyline alone, but also the storyline of the entire town focused on Susan Day. I cannot say that Susan Day's storyline is as much important as Ralph's storyline, but there is a point towards the ending of the book where both of these converge, and the reasons why he talks about both of these things side by side make sense at the end. Apart from Ralph, we also follow our two other main characters, Ed Deepno and Lois Chase. Of these two, Ed Deepno is the character who is introduced to us first, and he's shown as a person who hates his wife because she supports Susan Day, and he's totally against Susan Day because he also believes that it is not right to abort fetuses in their mother's wombs itself. After the beginning of the book, Ed Deepno makes just appearances here and there throughout the book, but towards the end, the author makes him as a main character and shows us what are the things that he has built in the background when he is narrating the story as a whole. And Lois Chase, the other character, is the second most important character for the story after Ralph, if you ask me, because Lois Chase is also an old woman who's in her late 60s and her husband has also died. So she is also living all alone in her apartment, but she has a son with whom she does not have that great a relationship with. She has also developed insomnia in the past few months and she has also started seeing things that other people cannot see. At a point inside the story, what happens is Lois as well as Ralph meet each other, and when they start sharing their experiences with each other, they get to know that this is not a thing which is caused like hallucinations because of the lack of sleep in both of their lives. They are both able to see auras of people as well as things around them most of the time. At the same time, what happens is Ralph is able to see three bald doctors occasionally now and then, but what happens is every time he sees the bald doctors, something very horrible happens in the town and he's not able to connect the dots in these circumstances. Because of the fact that Ralph as well as Lois can see the actual auras of people around them, they are able to develop this empathic sense of being able to manipulate as well as see the senses and feelings of people whom they are in contact with. It is shown really lightly here and there throughout the story, and it is developed loosely towards the end also. It is definitely not a very sharp or strong kind of power that they manipulate, but the way in which it is shown is just convenient, at the same time not very easily describable at multiple instances. These empathic abilities not just help them to manipulate as well as sense the feelings of people, but they can also diagnose some physical abnormalities in the bodies of people whom they are in contact with and speak with very easy. They can just see the aura of a person and say what is wrong with their body and if they have some ailments that is going to show out in just the next few days. So all these are some powers which are explained by the author for the two main characters in this one. They are not like very detailed in description, but they are explained to us to such an extent that we can understand what's happening with their powers inside the story. Though the book is very slow, the thing which I liked about it is that the author takes a lot of time to show how the insomnia develops for both the main characters here and how they are starting to see the auras and all the things that the other people cannot see. It's not like one day they wake up and they are able to have all these powers and wield them properly. It takes a lot of time for them to figure it out, and even towards the ending of the book, they are not clear of how their powers work and how their powers don't work. But when there are certain circumstances which are arise, they have this instinct and they just try to do things and they work. So it is loose in that way if you ask me. Since they are old people, the way in which their life is described here is also very original if you ask me, because old people mostly have very secluded lives and the loneliness that they face and the things that happen to them because of the loneliness is properly portrayed here. It is not like they need other people in order to live with, they just need to be left alone and be understood in a proper way. It is not like they always require the attention of other people in order to live properly. If they are left alone and just given the conveniences that they require, they can live all alone and not want the company of others also. It is properly shown here. Eventually the relationship between Lois as well as Ralph here blooms into a romance, and the way in which that romance, which happens at an elderly age, is properly shown and developed by the author here. It is not something which just sparks immediately, and it is not like both of them fall for each other because they have their partner dead right now. Another thing which I want to say is that even though both the main characters in this one are old people, they are not shown like very stereotypical boring old people at all, okay? They have a lot of emotions, they have both dark as well as bright sides within them. They have a lot of positive thoughts as well as negative thoughts that are going on in their mind, and the way in which their age and experience is reflected in those thoughts and behaviors is really nice to read about. I have personally not read many books that focus on old people as main characters, but in this book I think that the author has achieved really well what he has intended to do, and it is also not done in a bad way anywhere at all. Now the two things which I think are extremely great cons for this book are, the first one being the pacing being extremely slow, okay? It can be slow at instances, but I should say that this book has been slow from start to end. There are some very action-packed and intense scenes that happen in the second half of the book, but even they are slow-paced, and that is something which just bugged me a lot because I'm not used to that kind of pacing at all. Even though the storytelling is just awesome, the pacing just kills most part of the book if you ask me. The second issue is that it is extremely descriptive. I don't think the book needs to be this descriptive at all, and there are some instances and scenes that the author just stretches in order to just provide more pages for the book. This is definitely not a book which needs to be 900 pages long at all if you ask me, in my personal opinion. I think this can be a story which can be told even more better and precise within just 400 or 500 pages, because I think that the author just meanders for a lot of the time in these 900 pages, and it can be easily halved if you ask me. I can understand that he takes a lot of time in order to show us that all these things that are happening to the main characters here need to sound realistic and seem realistic, but it just felt like it was so much stretched out, which was not necessary at all. So because of that, my reading experience was a lot more rocky and I was not able to continuously read the book at all. Even though those two things bugged my reading experience as a whole, I should say that the one thing which just kept me reading this book is that both the main characters whom we see here do not go out of their character traits at all at any point, okay? There are some things which are very original for Ralph and there are some things which are very original for Lois, and both of them do not step out of their boundary and show themselves as different characters from whom they are in the book at any instant at all, and I definitely did like it. And talking about the ending of the book, I cannot say that it was a bad ending or an ending which I hated anyway. It is definitely not an ending which I wanted to see for the book, because both of the main characters whom we see here are elderly people and they have been through a lot in their entire life, as well as small chunk of their life that they live inside the story. Towards the end, it just felt like a bleak ending, but I should say that it just made a lot of sense, because if it does not happen like that towards the climax, some of the things which happen before the climax won't make sense at all. So as a whole, I can say that even though the reading experience was rocky and it took a lot of time than I expected for me to read it, it was definitely unique and just made me feel the place and time period in which the story was happening. So finally, I rated Insomnia by Stephen King 3 stars, and I'm definitely going to read a lot more of his books further on, and you can see the reviews of all of them coming up in the channel as I read them successively. And if you did enjoy watching today's video and found it useful in some way or the other, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also share it to your friends. If you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.